Okay, so here's the box of junk for the truck brakes. We're gonna do the same thing we did with the wife's car a few minutes ago. We're gonna go ahead and take everything apart without looking at the new parts because we just don't care anymore. So these were like, they're embarrassing, right? You pull up at intersections and they just grind and sound awful. And what's interesting is they're like, this one's, it might be the other side that's worse. There's a lot of pad material left. We'll get them out and look at them. So I don't know, it's just a Michigan thing, I guess, where everything gets rusty and disgusting and no one likes it. So should I get new leaf springs? Those are like flat. This got a lot of dirt put in it once by a friend of mine. It was hilarious. Like I was laughing my ass off. The trailer hitch, it dug into the ground when he pulled into my other friend's driveway with it. He put what was the equivalent? Oh, it was a lot of dirt. It was way more dirt than should be in this truck, that's for sure. But it was a good watch. But I wonder if it did the springs in. I mean, this truck is 200 and it's the high 270s, almost 280,000 miles on it now, and it's lived its whole life in Michigan. Okay, so this side's done. Bad tutorial, right? I didn't really go through anything, but everything that I used is laying out here. It just doesn't take much. So we'll go into more detail on the other side, but it was 4/18 when I grabbed the Jetta, took it for a test drive, pulled this back up here, got it in the air, did this whole side, and now it's 4:58. So you're looking at 40 minutes, including driving the car and all that crap, so realistically half an hour. Like, that's what I should have done. It should be 10:30 in the morning right now. No, 11:30, because the Jetta would have taken an hour. I gotta stop doing this to myself, otherwise I'm gonna, you know, at least it's getting done. So let's see how bad that other side looks. Okay, this side will go into more detail, make it more of a instructional thing, you know, for everybody out there that has a 2002 Silverado. Yeah, they're good trucks. I like them. But anyway, 22 millimeter takes your little cappies off, and then the lugs, whoops, and then lugs are 22 millimeter as well. I got a gun for these. I wonder if I can do the whole rear, this whole side with one hand while holding the camera. That'd be kind of funny. That's right. There's getting warm. I don't have the compressor plugged in, but it's okay. We don't need it anymore. I use it to put these back on, but I don't put them on tight, just enough to seat, because I'm lazy, and then I use a torque wrench. So, oh, one-handed wheel. Arr. Ooh, tread's pretty good on this one. Oh, look at that. She's a beaut, right? Bird's nest. Again, fuck me. So I get birds. They're trying to live in all my vehicles, right? So like, I got home last night, 11, yeah, right around 11. Look at, trying to build one there. They decided they didn't want to. Nothing in that wheel. So usually this one and the truck get it the most because they have more of a wheel gap. But yeah, it's like every day they come out. There were a couple where it's like 3-4 days in a row I have a full-size bird's nest. And the last one had an egg in it, and I felt really bad. So I put it over by that tree and watched, because the bird was going crazy. I was waiting to get pooped on for moving it, you know. But I'm not going to park my truck all year just so a bird can have a kid, right? I'm stronger than them. So I put it on the ground to see if, like, you know, they just won't because they're animals. But if on a freak occurrence it came over there and was like nesting on the ground and having a panic attack, I was going to like move it up into the tree and see if they just kind of follow their nest around, but it didn't happen. Yeah, check out good old G on clear coat, right? 18 years, that's what you get. So the roof's all rusty, so we'll have to deal with that stuff at some point. But with this thing, the necessities only, right? It's a truck, it does truck stuff, and we like it that way. So where was I? Oh, right, we need 12 millimeter wrench. We need the 18 for the carrier. We need the hammer because it's hammers. We need this, and we'll come back and get the other things when we need them. But yeah, stuff's really not that difficult. I don't think I'll be able to do this one-handed the whole time, so we'll just kind of talk as we go. There's a little flat on this inside part, so if it doesn't hold itself and you need to hold it, I don't know what wrench size it is, probably 17 or 15, maybe 15, but it's really thin, so I'll go see if I have a wrench for that. I don't think I do, but I've never really needed it, so we'll see. Okay, so that other part where you can hold it is a 17, right? But even my snap-on's not thin enough. They have that dumb lip, for, you know, and you can't get a wrench in there, and I don't want to grab it with pliers. But you used to do a lot of mountain biking, so this is, I don't even remember, I don't even know if anybody uses 17 millimeter anymore. I think it was for bottom brackets, like ancient bottom brackets, but it fits right in there. It's nice and thin, and we're at the point where we don't need it for a ton of torque, so even though it's thin, it's not going to screw things up. These aren't that expensive. They come in a bunch of sizes, and they're just nice to have around when you run into things like this, so you don't have to like start shaving your own parts down. So yeah, I'll get both hands on it. We'll get those bolts off, peel the caliper back, see how she looks. Okay, so the bolts are out. Oof, she's tight. Oh, holy cow. Look at this. I've never had this happen before. You can see through it. That whole rivet came out. So, hey caliper, you having a bad time? We'll see if that even presses back in. So I put new calipers in when I was in North Carolina. So these are only a few years old. Yeah, I did new calipers and new lines because one of the brakes, well, both of the, this one, yeah, I think this one was worse. Just wouldn't reset very well, and they'd wear out super fast, as you can see. So clearly that problem's not fixed. Yeah, we'll see how that resets with the C clamp. If it's super easy, then I'll just keep a better eye on these things. But it hasn't been 10,000 miles. I take that back. It probably has. It's probably been. It hasn't been 20,000. I know that. So I hope there's something wrong with the hard lines somewhere. But okay, and then the rear bolts are 18 millimeter to take the carrier off. And these I end up having to bang on with the hammer just because they got a pretty high torque value when you put them together. So we'll check back in a minute. Okay, it's all off, and look at the back of that rotor. That's amazing, right? So no wonder it's kind of like I pull up the stop signs. Just grind, because I'm grinding through the rivets, grinding the rivets right out of the thing, and just, well, yeah. Look, that thing didn't weld itself together on the highway or something. All right, I'll grab that C clamp and see how this resets before we dig too deep. Okay, so that's as tight as that is as tight as I can get it by hand, and it's not like this should reset super easy, and it's not. So we need to figure out where our problem is, right? This caliper is only a few years old. I can't imagine it's the caliper, and what sucks now, everything's gonna have to be bled because it's gonna get air. There's gonna be brake fluid everywhere, a big pain in my dick hole, and it's not gonna be done tonight because I doubt that. Well, it's only 5. Maybe I can get my hands on something tonight, but it depends if it's the caliper or not. Okay, so fun brake stuff. This is a 9/16 fitting, right? And actually, so I sprayed Croil all over it because I love that stuff. And it's loose, it's coming out. But look on this side. See how the part of the line is moving with the nut? It's supposed to slide over it. If I just go ahead and keep going, oops, did it break free? No. So it's still doing it, it's twisting it, and it's going to tear that, and then this line's screwed, right? And I'll have to put a whole new hard line in. So I think the answer is probably heat. The answer is always heat, right? We want those to break apart so that this spins on top of this like it's a little shaft and doesn't tear it in half and make us need to get all new lines as well. So, yep. I just thought, I was like, yeah, hold on, let me heat that up with my torch with this bird's nest behind it. And probably have a leaky gas tank or something. We'll send this thing to the moon, and then we don't need to worry about it. So, yeah, we'll clean all that crap out, and then we'll heat it up. Oh, was that a drip? Didn't even take much, so look nice and close now, and you'll see that the brake line itself stays still, but the nut is able to move. So now we're not going to twist that brake line and snap it. We're going to be able to take this off. He'll dribble down our little container, and then we'll see if this will compress or not. If it doesn't, then it's either the line or the caliper. We can move up to this connection and see which one. Okay, so the line's off. We can calm it down. It's dripping from the master cylinder side, but there's nothing coming out on this line side. And when I go to, well, I need another hand, so 1 second. Yeah, so that still doesn't budge. So this is not resetting. This is good news overall in my mind, because it means that from here back there's nothing wrong with it. I can just let that fluid drip out. We'll have to bleed the brakes, and that sucks, but it's not that bad. It's not as bad as replacing all the hard lines. So now I'll pop this clip and we'll get it out of here so it's easier to work on. We'll separate the hose from the caliper and see if it resets. Alright, so it's up here. I got it on the vise. I don't really have it under a lot of pressure. Well, let's give it a little bit of pressure, because if we crack this 11 millimeter, for those that need to know its size, right, because there's nothing coming out of there really. This is residual from the other line while I was banging out with the hammer. But if we crack this open and a bunch of fluid comes out, it's going to be the line. My money's on the line. Oh, cheese and rice. Who put that on? Oh, there we go. And no, we're not getting any fluid. I would have expected to see a bunch of fluid there. So yeah, caliper's only a couple of years old, and looks like we're probably going to need a caliper. But we'll see. Maybe there's not enough pressure on it. We'll want to flush this line out like crazy, make sure there's no pieces of crap in it. So let's see. Yeah, we need a caliper. Oh my gosh. Yep. Yep, we need a caliper. That sucks. So yeah, this caliper's, well, I've been, the company I'm at now, I'm in my 5th year. So 4.5-ish years. Put this in North Carolina. So this caliper's only like 5 years old. Oop. That was stupid. Here, go in the tub. Get all your goo out. Well, yeah, I'm not going to go get one tonight. I'm tired of going to the parts store. And there's not really anything else we can put back on it. We'll clean that line out nice. But we'll get a caliper. What a disappointment. Okay, so a lot of brake fluid came out overnight. It didn't rain, so but it looks pretty gnarly, so it's kind of good to get that out of there. Yeah, so new caliper. Note to future self, the core, all of them come with brackets. So you're like $60 and then like 40 something for the core, and they want the bracket. So this one out I did because I knew this one was fine. It's just a little, it's got some surface rust. We replaced it a couple of years ago. I just gave the new one right back to him because I didn't want to have to drive all the way back to the store again. I would lose my mind. Okay, so do your 2 18 millimeter bolts in the back to get the carrier back on. Make sure you put the rotor on first. Hardware goes in, pads go in. Now we can get our hands on that caliper, new caliper, and we'll bolt it in the back with its 12 millimeter and then a 17 to hold these. Some of the remanufactured ones are smaller than 17 and they don't have the lip, so yeah, your mileage may vary. And then the new caliper came with a new banjo bolt and new copper washers for this fitting, which I cleaned up just at the wire wheel real lightly. I don't want to gouge big holes in it, but it's nice to have a new surface for that. So we'll get that line back on, and then I got a vacuum bleeder, so we'll try that thing out. I haven't used it yet. Okay, so when you put the line in, there's a little tab, so you can see in the hole there's like a rectangle on the right, and then there's a rectangle on this that locates it on this inside edge. So there it is. So we want it sitting this way. It'll make sure it's not twisting all funny, right? Keep us from putting it in circles, and that's what holds it in place when you tighten down that other piece. So that goes in, and then the clip will hold it on. I'll need 2 hands for that. Okay, so that side screwed on at that 9/16 to get that fitting together, and then like I said, just pull this plug now that you won't get crap in it. Single copper washer on this side, and a single copper washer on the other side, and it's an 11mm banjo bolt. It goes on here. Yeah. And then once it's, that's going to sit down there to keep it from spinning on you. Probably have a ratchet in 11 somewhere to make this a lot easier. But anyway, we'll be back to bleed these once this is tight. Okay, so use the vacuum pump to pull out all the old fluid. And like, the piece of grass didn't come, those from the bird's nest, but you can see it's not clear. It should be clear, and that's just disgusting. So we're gonna get new stuff in, flush all of them out. We'd have to bleed all of them anyway, so we might as well. Here's a pump with all its goodies attached. So let's see, think, John. 10? No. 10? Yeah, it's 10. That bleed screw's a 10. So bleed screws, right, when you loosen them just a tiny bit, they will, oh, cool, wow. And Hulk put that up. Oh, really? Oh yeah. Alright, so now that that's not jammed on there, right, we want it at the point where we can close it off, open it up as we see fit. Now if you had somebody else helping you bleed, you'd have it closed, they'd pump the brakes up, get some pressure, and you'd open it and close it to let fluid through until you don't see any more air bubbles. We're going to get to just vacuum it. It'll pull out continuously as long as we maintain vacuum until we don't see any air bubbles and nice clean fluid coming through. Now we're doing this wheel first because it's the furthest away from the reservoir, right? Well, if you go and look at the rusty underside, you see that spiral looking line, right? So that's the hard line for the brakes, comes all the way across the differential and goes into a splitter there, and then a single line runs up to the front of the truck. That's all it is. Wait, I thought this had rear ABS. How the hell do they do ABS if they've only got one line coming back here? I wonder if it just makes the rear not lock up compared to the front. That must be it. Huh. Well, now I'm even less worried about the part where I unplugged the fuse because it was freaking out and we tried to run into stuff. So the speed sensors in the wheels get rusty. And then me and my buddy Steve were going to the parts store for some other stuff, probably his truck, who knows. And if the little curb wasn't there, we would have put this thing right through the wall. The ABS came on and it wouldn't stop because it thought the wheels were spinning. So we promptly opened the hood and unplugged that fuse so that it doesn't try to kill us anymore. Because I'm not willing to go through all these wheel bearings to try to find the one that's not working right. Well, the truck's done. It worked out. That vacuum pump didn't work very well at all. So I don't know if it's something to do with the way that master cylinder's set up, where you really just can't pull things through it, or what. So all you gotta do is put the wheel caps back on. Took it for a test drive. I had the wife come out and pump up the brakes while I bled them. That's the way I've always done brakes, and it just seems so quick and easy that whenever I try either a vacuum bleeder or a pressure bleeder, it never works as well. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but I like just grabbing two people and do it with your foot. So everything's a horrible mess, and I got to do bathroom work. I want to work on the car, but fuck, I got to clean all this shit up. So I think probably the best thing is just get all the tools inside so they're not in the driveway being hot, and then do bathroom thing. Like get the water hooked up, test it, get these floor pieces cut and upstairs so things are out of the way. Then I can come down here later in the afternoon. It'll be cooled off, and we'll see if we can't get the rest of the rust ground down that we want to and spray some 2K. Once we do that, we should be good all week to start cleaning areas up, try to get this grime off, and then just start spraying down that undercoating. We'll have to do stuff like those brackets, right, that mount the rear beam. We don't want undercoating here. We don't want a thick layer of crap. So probably try to clean those up and paint them. That way I can bolt them in place, not torque them down, just get them in place, do undercoating, take them back off. We'll kind of use them as tape, because then once the beam's on, we can spray all around it anyway and try to seal it up the best we can. So, yep. That's all for a while.